So what economic planning is in the local development context, a few tools and methods in understanding economic planning, what do we do in economic analysis at the project level, usually during infrastructure feasibility studies, since yun yung majority of my experience. So we'll try to make sense and I'll try to show you a few examples related dun sa mga sinabi ni Sir Josh kanina, kung paano ko na-compute yung NPV, how does it fit in projects, anong interpretations niya. And ito, yung pinaka-excited ako, during my 2019 na sharing, sabi ko, ang pinaka-valuable siguro na kaya kong i-share that time, kasi kaya niyong basahin at kaya niyong aralin yung mga slides, yung mga resource materials, pero yung experience coming from someone who was fresh from the exam, feel ko yun yung pinaka-valuable input ko. So later on, passing on my cheat sheet sa inyo. So guys, hindi to kodigo, baka mamaya may masabi yung iba, pero cheat sheet ko lang siya. So ayan, before anything else, let me set na the expectation. Mabuti nang informed kayo kaysa sa magulat, di ba? So, Shai, may math ba? Oo, meron, pero kaya mo yan. So, labas na yung mga calculator kahit sa phone, and believe na kaya mo yan. So, actually, yan yung first tip ko sa inyo in passing the board exam. And that can be the greatest gift you can give yourself now that you're doing the review. When you know that you believe that you can do it, because once you know, you will. O, diba? Tinalo ang diagnostic para magising kayo. So wala tayong diagnostic this time around. So it's going to be a very, very short review lang. Ayan, so let's move forward with defining what economics is. So economics is basically a social science directed at the satisfaction of needs and wants through allocation of scarce resources which have alternative uses. So here we focus on saying that economics is a social science. And by saying that it's a social science, we talk about a human component, and the activities in economics are subject to human behavior. So it's reflected dun sa statement satisfaction of needs and wants. So 'di ba iba-iba tayo ng gusto, iba-iba tayo ng pangangailangan. So economics address yung allocation ng services para ma-meet yung needs natin. And then though may mga computations sa economics, it's still not an exact science. So dependent pa rin siya sa mga historical data and trend analysis. So economy, so we already have understanding on what economics is. The economy naman, the large set of interrelated production, consumption, and exchange activities that aid in determining how scarce resources are allocated. So basically, economy is the enabling avenue, the system on how economics can be practiced. So yung sinasabi natin dyan na production, consumption, and exchange, or ito yung mga economic activities na ginagawa. Or exchange activities can also be called as the trade, and sometimes within this system, within this enabling avenue, we have policies, programs. If you would hear usually mga fiscal policies na nilalabas ng government natin, and different organizations who implement within the economy. So this is just a short review. We've discussed this during our discussion during RPS, tama ba RPS? Yeah, kay Sir Al. We have sectors of the economy. Some books say tatlo, some books apat, some books lima. Pero let's stick to dun sa lima. So the primary sector, this is also referred to as agricultural economy. It's involved in mostly extracting the natural resources from the earth or exploiting its renewable elements. So mas mabilis yung recall sa atin when we say na this is the agriculture, this is about fisheries and forestry. So para lang may quick recall on what primary sector is. Primary. So mostly raw. Sinauna yan. Parang mga extracting resources at its most raw form. So the second sector is secondary sector or the production sector. So if primary sector is concerned with extracting, secondary sector naman is concerned with producing, with processing this raw materials into something more valuable and producing some sort of finished good. So dito papasok yung manufacturing, processing, and construction. Now, moving towards the tertiary sector, this is the service industry. Dito binibenta yung mga goods, yung mga services produced ng secondary sector. They also provide commercial services to the general population. So mostly mga retail, trade, transportation, restaurants, media, tourism, insurance, banking, healthcare, and law. So mostly services talaga siya. The fourth sector, or the quaternary sector, they also call this as the knowledge economy. And it includes intellectual activities, mostly related to technological innovation, scientific research, education. So yung industry kung saan ako galing, engineering consulting, professional consulting, usually nasa quaternary siya. And lastly, the quinary sector, ito yung mga high-level decisions. So, ipasok dito yung mga top executives, higher-level management, the high-level executives also in the government. Sila yung mga kasama sa quinary. So, basically, review lang to kasi nabanggit na rin to ni Sir Al during RPS. Now that we have the economy, or the organization that who looks into managing. Now we ask who gets who. Diba, we were talking about economics as the allocation of resources. Diba sa ating magkakapatid or when you have brothers and sisters, laging dapat walang inggitan, dapat pare-pareho. Pero iba-iba kayo ng pangailangan. Hindi naman laging bibili si mama o si papa ng blue na cake kasi lahat kayo favorite color na blue. Usually iba-iba yan eh. Ako favorite color ko red, yung ate ko blue, yung isa kong ate ko green. So how does the economy or how does the government ensure that the resources needed by individuals or organizations are provided, and how do they make sure na pag nag-provide sila ng resources or they allocated resources doon sa area na yon, sulit siya. We always focus to the point na resources are scarce. So pag onti lang yung hawak mong pera, yung mga tipong hindi tayo nakakaangat, iisipin mo talaga saan mo siya ilalagay na doon siya magpo-prosper na talagang masusulit siya. So in economic planning, this is, basahin ko lang yung definition, the arrangement of resources which are scarce in relation to the needs for their alternative uses in such a way that the satisfaction yielded by them is maintained at an optimum level. So in economic planning daw, when we provide resources to a certain option, kunyari you have two options, you give it to option number one, you have to also consider na sulit siya to the point na okay lang na hindi mo nabigyan yung second option mo. So, because resources are scarce, you have to make sure na when you give it into one sector, bubunga siya even more dun sa mga what we call opportunity cost, yung mga foregone value, yung mga hindi mo napili. So, yon. So, that's part of economic planning. We also ask here, who will benefit and by how much, and sino yung sasabihan mo ng hindi, and how will you ensure na even if hindi yung sagot mo sa kanya, even if hindi mo maibigay yung pangangailangan ng resources, better off pa rin sila. Now we also ask, since now that we're all ready to plan, ready na tayong mag-start bumuo ng isang economic plan, do we have a document to build for this plan? Parang anong document? Kung naiisipin na kailangan natin ng land use plan, alam natin na CLUP yun. Gagawa tayo ng mga plans and programs, alam natin na from CDP yun towards LDIP. Pero in building economic plans, it's basically everything from the national down to local plans, because you're talking about resource allocation. People or human resources, money resources, environmental, natural resources. So basically everything is technically an economic plan. So by definition, resource allocation tinitignan natin dito. So for example, sa CLUP, identifying what land areas are for production and protection is already allocating land resources. Therefore, part of economic plan. Sa CDP naman, when we prioritize what projects should be in the pipeline, anong uunahin for this year or next year, saan natin ilalagay yung pera natin na mas makakabunga na mas maganda para sa locality natin. Therefore, you allocate your basket of cash. The LGU allocates their basket of cash into that sector, into that program. So money is another form of scarce resource. So when we say economic planning, hindi lang siya yung economic sector plan or economic analysis. It's basically almost everything yan. So when we talk about economic development, there are two schools of thought na laging resounding. So, lagi na didiscuss, lagi na pagdadebatihan. So, it's economic growth and economic development. So when we talk about economic growth, it's just a consistent increase in overall production, change of a measure of output, or the increase in per capita income, basically measured in quantitative terms. Economic development naman talks about the standard of living of the majority of its population. Hindi lang natin tinitignan dyan yung pera or yung dagdag lang sa isang tao, pero it's multidimensional. So social, political, environmental, and cultural satisfaction. So I can better explain it by saying na, di ba, kunyari ikaw, sasahod ka. Ako rin pala sumasahod tayong lahat. So sasahod ka. So yung sahod na yun, dadaan lang sa kamay mo. So dadaan siya in and out every 15, 30, in and out lang yun sa'yo. So no matter how big yung salary mo, so kunyari next month, dumoble yung sahod mo, dadaan lang siya sa palad mo kasi gagastusin mo siya agad. That's technically economic growth. Kasi walang development na nangyayari. Lumalaki lang yung sahod mo, pero yung behavior mo into using that, it's the same in, out, in, out, in, out. That's economic growth. Lumalaki yung sahod, pero ganun lang. Lumalaki lang talaga siya. Walang value added sa iyo. But when we talk about economic development, ang pwede kong analogy dyan is, dumating yung sahod mo, lumaki na yung sahod mo, so ginawa mo, a portion of your sahod, nilagay mo sa investment. So, nadadagdagan, even unconsciously, yung pera mo. So, at the end of the day, ang nakukuha mo, at the end of the year pala, tinignan mo, ang pera mo na lang is hindi lang yung galing sa sahod mo, pero you already have an investment. So, nag-develop yung, yung portfolio mo, nag-develop yung pera mo. Umangat siya more than dun sa expected mo. Ang economic growth, lumaki lang siya. Ang economic development, nag-upscale ka na. May value added na. So sabi ni Albert Hirschman, there can be growth without development. Oo, dumadami lang yung pera mo. And then, according to Amartya Sen, there cannot be development without growth. Growth is a precondition to development. So, kunyari, have you ever heard of the saying na, you cannot give if you're not abundant? Kapag yung money mo or if yung sahod mo is just for you and may isa kang friend na nangangailangan to or may isang friend na nangangailangan or kailangan umutang or may kailangan pagbigyan, hindi mo pwedeng ibigay yung just enough for you kasi para sa'yo lang yon. Now, when you are in a quote-unquote developed stage, meaning meron kang more than what you need to survive. So may extra kang pamigay sa iba, may pang extra kang pang investment mo. Now, as we go towards economic development, the goal of economic development is to enhance the factors of production. So we all know that there are 4 factors of production. Dati kasi 3 lang siya. And then I think recently, or baka nung nagsusurf lang ako, doon ko na lang nalaman, na there are 4 factors of production pala. So we have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So the goal of economic development is enhancing all these factors. So for example, land, we expand land by expanding its availability and its corresponding use. So example of this are reclamation, land conversion, and then we also try to upgrade and expand labor by opening to more opportunities related to whatever industry is booming in that area. So, for example, recently, parang paunti-unti na parang nagmo-move towards information technology tayo, artificial intelligence, computer engineering. So, we are already upgrading the skills of our labor force. We also try to expand our capital. So, if mapapansin natin, dumadami yung mga banking institutions, dumadami yung mga financial institutions na pwedeng magpautang. So, dati pwede ka lang makabili ng isang gamit na installment kapag may credit card ka. Ngayon, meron ka ng Aeon survey. Ayun. Meron ka ng Aeon service, meron ka ng mga different financial institutions na pwede mong pag-utangan or makakuhanan ka ng cash para makapag-start ng business or maka-purchase ng isang item that you may need in your investment. We also upgrade the understanding of our entrepreneurs by increasing and upgrading their ability to integrate all these new businesses. So, dati tayo ka lang ng business since it's okay. Ngayon, people are moving forward to trying to get more understanding in financial management, nagma-masters in business administration because they see the kung paano mag-handle ng business before nag-iiba na. Times are changing. Sabi ko nga kanina, there are information technology infusion. We've just came out from COVID situation. So upgrading the understanding of the entrepreneur to mold the land, upgraded land, labor, and capital is part of increasing and enhancing our production factors. So now, the objectives. So at the end of the day, economic development must meet these certain objectives. So dapat maitaas yung income and living standards ng mga tao, ma-increasing availability of basic goods and services, to provide expand range of social and economic choices available to individuals, and to provide fairness and equity and income distribution. So the main goal is basically to improve well-being of the community and quality of life ng mga tao. The term quality of life, madaming beses nyo siguro siya maririnig sa akin later on during economic analysis. Because when we talk about economic development and if you were able to catch the latter na discussion ni Sir Joshua kanina, meron at merong part kasi ng economic development na hindi siya in financial terms. Where technically economic development, ang end goal niya is not the financial terms, but yun nga, yung well-being and yung quality ng life ng isang tao. So as mentioned kanina, economic planning, economic development is spread throughout all types of planning. But let's talk about the local economic development. So basically, the thought is the same for at all levels. You still focus on economic development, pero you provide emphasis on the role of each sector in the locality. So ngayon, may local dynamics nang involved. So katulad nitong definition, nabanggit dito na there are community organizations, government, businesses that work together, they collaborate para maiangat yung buhay ng mga tao doon sa mismong community nila. So in terms of economic planning, sabi ko nga kanina, it's not an exact science. It's a social science. So walang exact formula on how to do it. However, in as much as we can, we try to standardize and put order so that yung endpoint niya beneficial talaga. Beneficial sa mga taong tatanggap ng plano. So these are steps in economic planning. So you first start with calculating the location quotient. Later on, we'll discuss what location quotient is and doon natin magagamit yung handy calculators natin. So it's basically choosing where to place our resources best. Number 2, assess key trends, sources of competitive advantage, specialized needs and allocation factors. So it's basically talking about the environment. We'll go into this maybe later on, pero the quickest that I can describe this is understanding the context of the organization, the context of your locality. So, in terms of land use planning, dito makikita ano yung facilities na meron ka. Historically, ano yung mga industries na talaga nagpapaangat doon sa locality na yon. Next, determining structural changes and shaping the economy. So, sabi nga natin kanina, when we wanted to develop, growth is needed. So, at some point, kung kulang na yung land mo, mag-reclaim ka. Since wala ka ng land, instead of building horizontal facilities, kailangan mo you wanted to attract more residents. So, magtatayo ka ng pataas na structures, vertical structures. Yan. The next is determining the locality's role in regional economy. And this is actually related later in the economic-based theory and the location quotient. This is just saying na ibida mo kung saan ka pinakamagaling. Hindi mo pwedeng ibida, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na magaling ako sa water resources engineering kung ang totoo hindi naman pala. So same rin sa planning, you put forward ang ibida mo kung ano yung alam mo kayang dalhin ng locality mo, kung saan yung full force kayong makakapag kung saan yung resources mo, full force mo maibibigay. And then you also have to determine industries to retain and support. And lastly, determine emerging and fast-growing industries to foster and attract. So in as much as we are planning for now, we are also planning for the future. So now we move towards dun sa tools and theories. Actually, marami siya. Pero kasi if we discuss them all today and if we discuss them in thorough, baka it would take, baka next year na siguro kayo mag-take. Pero let's just focus on those na nababalitaan talaga namin lumalabas sa exam. And this is one of those. This is the economic-based theory introduced by an economic geographer, si John Alexander in 1950s. Ang premise niya is growth happens when you're able to export that certain product or export from that certain industry. And then there's a few assumptions that the economy is grouped into two. Ayan. So there are two sectors according to the economic-based theory, which is number one, the basic sector or the sector that can export. Ito yung sector na dependent to factors external to the local economy, or they are the ones responding not only to the internal but to the external needs of those outside the locality. Those under the non-basic sector naman, sila yung nagkikater dun sa needs ng mismong locality. Wala silang capability or either wala silang capability or yung mismong nature of industry nila, hindi sila pang export. Pang cater sila sa needs ng existing. So for example, the characteristic of your locality, kaya small siya, hindi siya big scale, hindi siya CBD, hindi siya center business district. It's small municipality, it's just a small area. So a non-basic sector would be, you can describe as, malamang hindi ka naman maglalagay ng 3 universities, 3 tertiary hospitals, at isang malaking sports stadium. Ang kailangan for a small area would be the basic health facilities, maybe 1 or 2, isang primary, isang secondary, isang tertiary, or pwede hanggang secondary schools lang. So those are part of non-basic sector kasi yun yung requirement ng locality nila. Now, an export sector or a basic sector can be described as, kunyari yung area mo is abundant in rice or in rice production. And you well know that yung rice na pinoproduce nyo is enough for your locality, and at the same time, kaya mong magbenta sa labas. And there are localities na hindi kayang mag-produce ng ganong kadaming rice and they need to import from you. So, yung pagbigay mo sa kanila ng rice na excess nung sa inyo makes the rice sector or the agri sector as a basic sector. Ngayon, okay na tayo dun sa basic and non-basic. So, basic and non-basic sector. Now we move towards understanding the economic base multiplier. So basically, this is just a method for estimating the impact ng basic sector to your local economy. Gaano ka ba kalaki yung naibibigay or gaano ba kalaki yung naibibigay nung basic sector na yun dun sa economy ng locality kung saan ka nakalagay. So for us to understand better this one, let's assume like na on your left hand, you have a list of basic sectors, and your right hand, you have a list of non-basic. Now, think of the basic sector. You have a group of basic sectors on your left hand. And now, you try to infuse the idea na you have to provide scarce resources. Kailangan mo siyang bigyan ng resources. Gusto mong mag-develop siya. Pero in your left hand, you have kunyari limang industries within that sector. Ang itatanong sa'yo, alin dito yung paglalagyan mo ng additional resources? Hindi naman pwedeng pantay-pantay. Meron at meron ditong mas nakakaangat at mas makakapagbigay ng mas malaking return doon sa locality nyo. So dito papasok yung economic base multiplier. So the formula is very, very easy. It's a total employment over the base employment. Now, can I ask a favor from you guys? Can you compute for the base multiplier of industry A? So the total industry A employment is 180,000 and the local employment is 900,000. Can you cite sa chat box following yung formula natin? That's total employment divided by the industry employment. Okay guys, so feel ko baka ako yung mali yung pagkaka-explain. Actually, the answer is five. So tama si Darlene, si Rich Doll. So let's always remember na the total local employment dapat yung nasa taas. Okay, so pinagbaliktad ko. So baka mamaya ganyan din sa exam. So we have to understand that base employment, yun yung pinag-uusapan natin, yung basic sector, which is industry A. So you're computing for the base multiplier of industry A. So industry A is base employment and the total employment is yung local employment which is 900,000. So okay ba tayo guys? Feel ko ako yung okay ba tayo? Medyo nagulahan ba doon? Clear na ba? Ayun, thanks Jasper. Ayun. So, clear na parang shampoo. Gusto ko crystal mamaya ha. Yun, thank you. So, the economic base multiplier of industry A is 5. So, for every unit of employment, for industry A, the local economy will grow by 5 times. So, if for example, maglalagay ka ng 10 jobs dun sa industry A, we will produce wrong yung spelling ko. We will produce the local economy 50 more jobs. So, mas maindali siyang intindihan na hindi siya outright na direct na 50 madadala niya. So, for example, kanyari ganito, ang industry niyo kunyari sa agriculture, you know that your basic sector, your agriculture is part of your basic sector. Now, kunyari nag-add ka ng 10 farmers. Since nag-add ka ng 10 farmers, ibig sabihin, nadagdagan yung production mo. Nung nadagdagan yung production mo, you have to increase your processing rate. Dumami yung output mo. So, ibig sabihin, mas marami kang pwedeng ibenta. Dumami yung mga tao na employ nyo for marketing. So, ang ginawa lang natin is to place 10 more jobs in the agricultural sector, but it equated to directly and indirectly 50 more jobs. So, yun yung ibig sabihin ng economic base multiplier. Now, okay. So, now let's look at the part, kunyari hindi pa natin alam kung ano yung basic and non-basic sector. You were already tasked by your boss or by your head planner na let's look at a world where hindi pa natin alam and we would like to understand kung ano ang basic and ang non-basic. There are a few methods. Ito nga, naka-flash sa screen. The first is the direct method. When isa-survey mo pa isa-isa, you will have to understand the supply chain, the value chain, the input and output of every industry. So medyo tedious siya. Pero at the end of the day, makikita mo, mamamap out mo kung saan siya nakadirect, kung you're able to export from that industry or not. Now, there's also the indirect method wherein ikaw bahala mag-establish ng sarili mong assumptions based on the historical data and trends na alam mo. And then there's also the combination na you can also, siguro, instead na lahat i-interview mo, lahat i-map out mo, kukuha ka lang ng sample size, and then mag-extrapolate ka lang further. So it's a combination of direct and indirect. Now, location quotient, and most probably ito yung ginagamit siguro ng mas maraming planners. This is when you quantify how concentrated an industry is in an area compared to a larger area. So example dito is municipality versus a provincial area. So again, location quotient, this is how we quantify how concentrated a particular industry is in a region. Ito yung this is the formula for location quotient. So it's employment in an economic activity. So for example, agriculture over the employment of the total within the total LGU. So agriculture employment over employment in the LGU. Denominator naman niya is yung employment ng economic activity in the province, kung asan yung LGU, over the total employment of the whole province. And then you divide them and makakakuha ka ng value ng location quotient. So if the location quotient is greater than 1, pang-export yung industry na yon. Kasi we are looking at the dynamics of the certain sector within the local economy in respect to a bigger region. So if it's greater than 1, ibig sabihin nakakapagbigay yung sector na yon, for example, agriculture, to other localities outside their LGU. Pwedeng provincial-wide. Now, if it's less than, ibig sabihin, hindi sufficient yung sector na yon to sustain the needs of that locality, and therefore they need to import. Now, if yung location quotient is equal to 1, ibig sabihin yung pinoproduce, for example, agriculture, yung pinoproduce na rice is just enough to serve the regions. Ibig sabihin sa inyo lang yan. Ngayon, based from experience, this is the best explanation I can give for people to understand, for planners to understand the importance of location quotient. So let's say, medyo may storytelling ako ng onte. And sabi ko nga based from experience. So, let's say, during campaign, si Mayor Juan, nag-promise siya sa isang LGU 123 na palalakihin ko yung ekonomiya natin. And the best way for me, and alam ko ang gagawin natin, di ba, agriculture economy tayo, marami tayong bigas. We will export rice. Now, ikaw as a planner, mapapaisip ka, posible nga ba? So, sige, hintayin na lang natin yung results ng election. After the election, ayun, nanalo si Mayor Juan. Yeah, congratulations Mayor Juan. Pero sabi niya, panalo na ako. At dahil nasa akin ng mandato, mag-prepare ka na, ikaw planner ENP, mag-prepare ka na for exportation ng rice natin and mag-conduct ka na ng mga road shows, mag-conduct ka na ng mga meetings with our business leaders para magkaroon ng industry linkage kasi i-export natin to, nasa plataforma ko to. But now that you've gone through the UP Plano review and nakabasa ka na ng marami and at this time ENP ka na, you know better. So inisip mo what to do. Ayan. So unang step natin gagawin is we will compute for the location quotient of the agriculture sector. Kunyari Marilao, Bulacan yun na. At medyo outdated ang data ko, sorry na. 2005 pa to. Let's see if Mayor Juan's promise is possible. Sige, ibabalik, if you can screenshot this slide, babalik ko kayo doon sa location quotient na slide. Wait lang, masyado bang mabilis? Do you need me to go back? Do you need me to go back, guys? Carry lang. Sige, thank you, Darlene. Okay, Miss Tess, sige, let's go back dun sa given. Okay lang yan, guys. Yung pagbalik sa slide, okay lang yan. Ay, sorry. Ito yung mga bagay na pwede nating balikan. Charot. Ayan. Ayan, sige po. When you already have the answer, you can chat it in the chat box. For guys, hindi lahat just for the agriculture and forestry private sector. So it's this one yung tinuturo ko. 576 and 91,565. If you can get the location quotient for that industry, and let's see if we can make Mayor Juan's dream possible. If meron ng may sagot, you can post it in the chat box, ha? Ayan, si Sil pa lang ang nakapagbigay. Okay. Sige, Jomel. Thank you, Nikki. Joshua, okay. Sige. Okay na tayo to move on to the next slide. Sige, move na lang tayo sa next slide. Iyon. Bakit yun? Yun. So, to those who answered, okay lang. Okay lang tayo sa two decimal places. I-round up na lang natin. So, 0.17 ang location quotient. So, di ba sabi natin, location quotient has to be greater than 1 to say that we can export. So, guys, can we fulfill the dream and promise of Mayor Juan to LG 123? Obviously no. Pero when we look at the location quotients of the other industry like the manufacturing, services and trade, so what we can say since we are already planners, claim natin na mayor we can't do that, but what we can do are the following. So hindi pa rin natin siya bibigyan ng zero, okay? So I hope this yung experience ko sa buhay about this would help people, you would have helped you remember how we can compute and how we can apply as planners yung location quotient. Pasensya na po, my friends know me as hugotera po talaga ako. Marami akong hugot sa buhay. So at least matatandaan nyo, di ba? Yun, malaki na yung naitulong ko sa inyo. Yun. So here are underlying concepts of economic base model and location quotient. So if you would always hear, magre-resound sa inyo yung concept ng sufficiency. Di ba? So sabi ko na nga be, ano tayo, humugot lang tayo ng humugot, ayan. Mas matatandaan nyo, lalo na't palapit ng exam. So here are underlying concepts na you may have already took in, but let's just formalize in terms. So sufficiency, ito yung level of production output of the economy in relation to its domestic needs. So ito yung pinag-uusapan natin kanina na kaya lang ibigay within the locality, na hindi na kayang ibigay pa palabas because sufficient na para sa inyo. And then for specializations, it's the proportion of a single sector of the local economy to the entire local economy. So it's the agriculture, it's it's the proportion of the local agriculture sector against the total industry, the total sectors of the local economy. So basta within the realm pa rin tayo nung local economy. When we talk about concentration, it's already the local sector against a bigger sector. So in this case, the local sector against dun sa regional and national economic sector. Ay, wait lang, magka-time check lang ako, guys. Ayun. So, may oras pa naman ako. So, this is something that I would like to share and I hope I could connect you, help you connect doon sa discussion ni Sir Josh kanina. Medyo ang bulk of my work at Woodfields nasa economic analysis at the project level. So, nabanggit ni Sir Josh kanina na we have to look into financial, economic, technical during the pre-investment stage. Ang goal lang nito, always go back doon sa economic, definition natin ng economics, that we have to allocate resources. So we go through all these studies, we have to make sure na yung pag-i-invest na ni government, both financially and economic, is sulit. And hindi niya sasabihin na, sana pala doon ko na lang binigay yung investment sa isang project kasi hindi pala naging okay sa inyo. So the difference between a financial analysis and an economic analysis, financial is talagang pera. Perang tinitignan natin, as in cash talaga siya. But in economic terms, we always look at it in a welfare. Welfare impact, quality of life. So for transportation projects, tinitignan natin yung level of service, yung savings from traffic, time savings from travel. And then in terms of flood control, tinitignan natin yung lives saved, yung mga livelihood na hindi mawawala, yung agriculture produce na hindi mawawala dahil hindi na sila babahain. So, yun yung nilalagyan natin ng value for the economic studies. Now, ito yung dinidiscuss ni Sir Josh kanina na when we assess the economic viability, we look at accepted parameters. So we have the benefit cost ratio, the economic internal rate of return, the economic net present value. So I hope hindi ko ipag-computein, pero kasi ang haba-haba ng computation na to. Pero Sir Josh already provided the formula kanina. So I'll provide a bit of interpretation. So the benefit cost ratio, it's the way to compare cost and benefit. Dapat mas malaki yung benefit than the cost at the end of the day. So if the BCR is greater or equal to 1, it's economically viable. And then you approve the project. If it's less than 1, it's not economically viable, meaning you disapprove. Sabi kanina ni Sir Josh, wag sana 1. Kaya tama yan. Tama naman na wag exactly 1. Kasi ibig sabihin, magkaroon ka man ng onting change sa cost mo, ibig sabihin hindi na siya viable. Pero in strictest terms, dapat talaga greater or equal than 1. So, economic internal rate of economic net present value, ito yung sabi nga ni Sir Josh kanina, the value of yung cash flow mo, yung total mo, towards the end of life ng project against doon sa initial investment mo. Nabanggit niya kanina na naramdam nating lahat na yung pera natin noon, hindi na parang ngayon. So, example, something that we can all relate, gas. Dati, ang gas is, I think, 25, 26, 27 yun. Mahal na yung 30. Pero ngayon, parang bumaba man siya ng 65, masaya na tayo. Or if you look at your grocery items, dati pag naka 1,000 worth of grocery items ka, kalahati nun okay na. Parang kalahating cart okay na. Puno na siya. Pero ngayon, yung same amount would provide you maybe 1 to 2 or 3 items. Depende ba kung gaano kakatipid sa kumuha nun. Sa pagkuha ng mas murang item. So ngayon, ang sinasabi ni net present value, dapat yung value ng pera ngayon, kahit all throughout the time. So naglagay ako ng 1 million investment for this project. Dapat after 50 years or after the economic life ng structure na yon, mas malaki pa rin yung 1 million ko ngayon. So dun sinasabi na versus the initial investment. So when you compute the ENPV, the net present value, if it's positive, ibig sabihin approve. So ibig sabihin, mas may value pa yung pera mo ngayon, yung initial investment mo, ibig sabihin may return pa rin siya sa'yo. When NPV is negative, yan, disapprove siya. So if NPV is 0, the project is not expected to result in any significant gain or loss. Para kang naka-break even lang. Same as the benefit cost ratio, technically, you can approve projects na NPV is 0, pero you also have to factor in what if may mangyari na naman COVID, what if may mangyari na naman na unexpected that would tip off your project towards the disapproving side. So going back to the principle of allocation of resources, so would you think tama yung naging desisyon if we approved in 0? So just to be sure, dapat andun ka sa positive side. The economic rate of return, it's the rate or the rate wherein yung NPV mo 0. When NPV is 0, diba, it is yung state na wala kang no expected na significant gain or loss. Kumbaga, EIRR is the rate wherein NPV is break-even. Ngayon, usually NEDA dictates kung ano yung social discount rate. So at this point, it's 10%. So if your IRR or your EIRR for a certain project is greater than 10%, approve yan. If it's less than 10%, disapprove yan. So in making the decision, dapat lahat ng indicators na yan present. Hindi siya yung either or. Dapat lahat sila acceptable values. Hindi siya pwedeng bagsak yung BCR mo, pero pasok yung EIRR mo, tapos pasok yung ENPV mo. Hindi pwedeng So dapat lahat sila within acceptable values. The moment na hindi acceptable yung isa or dalawa, tapos yung isa acceptable, ibig sabihin mali yung computation mo. Kasi never in any case na babagsak yung isa, tapos papasa yung isa. So if ever umabot sa point that you have to compute all of those, always remember na if one is pasado, dapat lahat sila pasado. Ngayon, let me share with you, in my actual work, this is, this is an example of the streams of cost and benefits for an infrastructure project that I studied. It's a large-scale flood management project at Bangsamoro Arm Region. So you would see na the economic life or yung useful life nung infrastructure na yon, yung flood management infrastructure na yon is from 0 to 50. Hindi ko na tinuloy guys yung iba kasi ang haba-haba ninyo makikita. So until 50 years siya. So in the investment portion, makikita mo na 6 years siyang binuo. It took them 6 years and with this much worth of investment. So in times 1 million pa to. Times 1 million. So the O&M, the operation and maintenance from year 7, meaning the time na nag-ano siya, from the time na nakompleto siya, naglalagay ka na ng operation and maintenance until the end of life year. So the benefits, kasi hindi naman pwedeng itong portion lang to, hindi na binabaha, ibig sabihin may benefit na. In terms of infrastructure, especially flood management projects, na magiging beneficial siya once 100% complete, ang benefits lang niya makukuha during the time na makompleto siya. So it makes sense that benefits would start at year 7. So in infrastructure projects such as this one, we computed the benefit using, kino-convert namin into monetary or financial values, yung buhay ng tao, yung livelihood ng tao, yung amount ng mga built environment nila, yung structures, yung mga agricultural, yung mga poultry, yung mga rice, yung mga crops nila. So ang premise nito, kapag nakapaglagay ka na ng infrastructure intervention, hindi na sila babahain. So the benefit is ito na, total na makakapagtuloy sila in their regular course of life. So, when you complete this one, when you perform discounting, makukuha nyo yung BCR, ENPV, and EIRR. So, mahabang process siya. Sa akin kasi naka-Excel file na siya. But given the streams of cost and benefits and the end result, yung BCR, yung ENPV, and yung EIRR presented down, kung ikaw yung nagde-decide for this project, will you approve to move forward with this investment? Can you tell me in the chat box if it's a yes or a no? Pwede ring pop na pop, ganon. Or nar, ganon. Sa tingin nyo, papasa yung project na to, will we move forward with this project or no? Crystal said yes. Jasper, pack na pack. Yan, yes. Yan, tama. Why? Kasi yung BCR niya is 1.60, yung ENPV niya is a positive, yung EIRR niya is 16%, which is greater than the 10%. Ngayon, ito yung sinasabi ni Sir Josh kanina na sana wag natin ilagay sa exact values na yung pasado lang. Pero guys, sa ENP yun okay na yun. Yung sa board exam, hit nyo yung pasado na, okay na yun. Pero when it comes to infrastructure projects or doing economic analysis, lagyan natin onting sobra. Kasi we also perform a sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis tells you na what if this happens? So in case A, what if mag-decrease yung benefit mo by 10%? So example na decrease in benefit, since kunyari ang tagal ng approval natin, ang tagal ng approving process natin, it would end up na wala na yung mga taong masisave niya. So wala na nagko-cultivate ng crops. So by some point, nag-decrease na yung benefit niya. So in case A, same yung cost pero nag-decrease yung benefit niya. Nakita natin ang result niya sa sensitivity analysis is 1.4, positive pa rin yung ENPV and pasok pa rin yung EIRR. So in case A, given na bumagsak yung benefits, pasado pa rin siya. Ngayon, in case B, wherein nag-increase naman yung cost, alam naman natin na it's possible with inflation, mag-i-increase yung cost natin, pero the benefit stays the same. So in case B, even if ganun yung situation niya, pasado pa rin siya in all parameters. Now, we go towards the most extreme na case niya, case C na pinaghalo yung case A and case B, meaning bumaba na yung benefit, tumaas pa yung cost. Makikita natin the BCR is still positive, the ENPV, BCR is above 1, the ENPV is still positive, and the EIRR, pasok na pasok ba rin siya, despite being placed in extreme conditions. So overall, the project is still a go. So guys, I hope I helped yung understanding kanina. May Excel file sana ako, kaya lang baka hindi ko pwede ipakita na. Pero yung pinakita kong screenshots kanina, I hope that would suffice. Ayun, so these are other concepts you may encounter in the board related to economic planning. So yung gross domestic product, yung total value of goods produced and services provided in a financial year. The fastest way ko nung college ako, I'm having difficulty kasi bago pa sa akin nun eh. Pag sinabing GDP, gawa dito sa Pilipinas, lahat in total, as in total ng lahat ng output ng product dito sa Philippines during financial year is part of the GDP. So remember, gross domestic product is gawa dito sa Pinas. Now, in gross national product, ito yung value ng all finished goods and services ng ginawa ng country citizens regardless kung asan sila given the financial year. So I always try to remember gross national product as gawa ng Pinoy. So remittances, pasok dito, yung mga dollar na pinapadali dito, pasak dyan. So remember, GDP, gawa dito sa dito sa Pinas, GNP is gawa ng Pinoy. When you study, if you can infuse a few of those to help you remember, help you study, gawin nyo lang. It will totally help you. Inflation naman, I know most of us are familiar. Ito yung increase of the price of goods in our economy. Inflation is the very reason kung bakit the purchasing power or the amount that a person or a group has to spend decreases. So, ang tandaan nyo na lang dito, yung concept natin of our grocery basket na ang 1,000 dati kalahati, ngayon 5 peraso na lang. Yan. Comparative advantage is the ability of the economy to produce goods and services at a lower opportunity cost than that of trade partners. So, ibig sabihin, in that industry, kunyari, balik tayo sa agriculture. I am LGU 123 and kunyari may isa pa akong kasama na LGU 456. Ako, as LGU 123, kunyari, wala akong comparative advantage sa rice as mentioned, as proven doon sa experience natin kanina doon sa pangako ni Mayor. Pero LGU 456 has comparative advantage sa rice, meaning they can produce rice, benefit from it, even at a very, very low price. Possibly kasi maganda yung land nila, they have all the financial and manpower resource, better trained yung mga tao nila, mas maraming ulan siguro sa kanila, or mas maganda yung irrigation, and therefore, enables them to have comparative advantage. They can sell the goods at a lower price, lower na kaya pa nilang mag-profit. Pareto efficiency, also known as Pareto optimality, it's the state of allocation of resources natin, which it is impossible to reallocate so as to make any one individual or preference criterion better off without making at least one individual or preference criterion worse off. Parang ito lang yon. When we were choosing projects kanina, hindi mo pwedeng, you can't put all of your, kunyari, ang resources ko is 1 million. You cannot put all of your resources nang hahatiin mo siya. Kasi 'di ba when we did the study number project A, pasado siya dun sa 3 parameters. Project B, hindi siya pasado sa parameter. So the most logical thing to do and economical thing to do is to put your resources in project 1. So ibig sabihin, on the first project na pasado in all parameters. So sinasabi niya Pareto efficiency, hindi pwede na pareho silang better off. Meron at merong lesser off because may trade-off na nangyari. Ayun. So I'll just run through my cheat sheet para sa inyo. Again, hindi po siya kodigo, hindi rin po siya anyway para makapandaya po tayo. Pero this is my maybe road to probably hindi pala acing, hindi ko na acing yung exam to passing na lang tayo, passing the exam. So at this point, I could say na please get your head in the game. Instead of saying may 3 week, sasabihin mo may 3 weeks pa, hindi 3 weeks na lang. You have to study smart, study hard, and be strategic. Later on, being strategic will actually help you, and will post a few guides on how you can study strategically. And only you know what's best for you. So follow it, do it. If gusto niyo mag-aral ng gabi, tulog kayo sa umaga. If gusto niyo kumain ng chocolate, if gusto niyo mag-aral even the last minute before the exam, then you do it kasi you know what's best for you. And don't you ever discount the lessons you've learned before. Suyurin search your mind palace. Especially dun sa mga nakapag-aral na before, sa mga nakapag-aral na yung mga na-postpone ng maraming beses, just at some point, the adrenaline rush will help you look for those information na matagal mo nang hinahanap nung nagre-review ka. So, let's there are 450 questions ranging from easy, average, and difficult. And you know naman that there are 3 areas. So at this point, parang alam nyo na ba kung saan kayo na medyo nag-aalanganin? Is it in Area 1, the principles, concepts, theories, and history, Area 2, and Area 3? Guys, ang goal lang naman talaga is to get 70% of the exam. Pero apart from the 70% in total of the board, on total of the whole board exam, at least 50% of each thematic, of each area. So when you study, tignan nyo, dito ba there are 100 questions for area 1 and equivalent to 20% of my grade. Confident ba ako sa concepts, sa cities, sa regions, the characters of the cities, urban areas, spatial theories? Sabihin natin hindi ka confident. So from now on, you create a study plan geared towards this one. Kasi ang goal mo, at least maka 50%. Ang sabi nga sa amin dati ni Ocean, ang sabi ni Ocean sa amin dati, i-hit mo na lang 70 per area para hindi ka na nagko-compute. Kasi kung hinihit mo is 50 per area, ang total pa rin naman nun 50. So i-hit mo na yung 70 per area para at least 70% per area para at least may confidence ka na okay, pasado na ako. Area 2, about environmental processes, methods, and strategies as emphasized by Lala kahapon, 45% yan. So, maybe at this point, kapag napasadahan mo na siya lahat, napasadahan mo na lahat, balik ka dito kasi ito yung may greater points. Ito yung kailangan 70% of 200 makakuha ka ng tama. The same yung gagawin natin for area 3. And actually, yung diniscuss kanina ni Sir Josh is halos itong lahat na yon. So, maka 70% ka lang of the 150 items, okay na. So, that's studying strategically. Ako, pre-examination preparation ko, you should really have a study guide, study plan. Kasi if wala kang plan, sobrang scattered yung brain mo to the point na masasabihin mo na, hindi ko na-review to, hindi ko na-review yan. And if you still have time, there is no such thing as overreading. Some people would say, huwag ka naman basa ng masyadong marami. Kasi the ENT board exam usually is anything under the sun na within the planning. Pero if it would give you more comfort, sige, basa ka lang. Update yourselves with current events. Katulad ng COVID, how it affected us. If may batas, katulad kanina, yung Bayanihan Act, you keep yourself updated kasi most probably nasama siya sa exam. Be strategic, as mentioned kanina. Focus on your weak areas. Find the study buddy or yung group. I-leverage mo na yung mga kaibigan mo. Katulad namin, yung panahon namin ni Ralph, medyo forte ko yung economic, yung planning, yung sa NEDA, yung sa ICC review. So hindi ko na siya ganun inaral. Pero pag nagdi-discuss kami, yun yung dinidiscuss ko. Si Ralph naman as an architect, he would discuss site planning, he would discuss anything that would help us sa theories kasi medyo favorite niya yung professor namin doon. Ayun. So, and get all logistics out of the way early on. So, if kailangan nyo nang bumili ng polo shirt next weekend, maraming pencil, plastic envelope, permits. If kailangan ng health permit, nire-require kayo ni PRC, get it out of the way. Kasi dapat yung last week mo is dedicated to prepping yourself up. Kasi dapat at peace na yung mind mo nun eh. So, remove all the worries that you have na lang. And ito, based from experience, utang na loob, please resist the God complex temptation. Kasi ako, medyo may God complex temptation ako, lalo na pag mga big deal exam na to. So, fortunately, pumasa ako. Pero actually, hindi ako nag-leave of absence, walang ganun. Hindi ako nag-leave. Hindi naman sa pinagbawalan ako, nag-decide ako hindi mag-leave. The day before the exam, uma-attend pa ako ng management committee. The week before nun, nag-ISO certification pa ako. Then the 2 weeks before nun, nag-prepare pa ako ng birthday celebration ng boss ko. So, siguro maybe nag-align lang yung stars ay medyo fresh pa sa utak ko. Siguro lakas na lang din ng loob ng time na yon. Pero if right now you feel na hindi ka pa readily prepared, love yourself enough na take that leave. Sige na. Pero wag naman yung mass diva. Don't quote me on this, Jasper. Loko ka. Sige, Joshua, push mo yan. Ayan, so please resist the God complex temptation, lalo na if ito ang goal mo, lalo na if kailangan mo to. On the days of the exam, please expect trick questions. Yung mga tipong pinagbaliktad lang nila yung number. Yan, tapos magugulo ka na. The answers may be in the next page. So, ang naging ugali ko, pagkuha ko ng test paper, hindi pa ako sumagot, binrowse ko na siya lahat. Tinignan ko na lahat ng questions. Kasi instead of kabahan ako sa mga bagay na hindi ko naman alam, yun pala 2 pages after nun, meron na. Andun yung sagot. Context clues na lang talaga. Super nakabawa siya dun sa kaba ko. There are difficult and confusing questions. Sasabihin nila, there are two statements, A and B, statement 1 and statement 2. Tapos ang choices mo is A, both are true, B, both are false, C, first is true, second is false, and letter D, first statement is false, the second statement is true. So, once you get, so pag ganito, talagang dedicate time, lalo na kung medyo mataas ang pagsi-self-doubt mo, nahihirapan kang mag-process agad. So if you need to skip that question, balikan mo na lang. Once you get the questionnaire, kasi ako, minsan goldfish memory ako eh. Tanda ko siya lahat ngayon, medyo after 30 minutes makakalimutan ko na. So, free ka naman to use that questionnaire as your scratch paper. So, if kaya mo, i-dump mo na lang, i-memory dump mo na siya lahat ng formula sa utak mo, lahat ng laws na natatandaan mo. If you're in danger of forgetting, isulat mo na siya lahat doon. Kasi it would take you how many minutes to recover? At least, bawas na siya sa lahat ng, bawas na sa lahat ng kaba mo. So, you also have to try, hindi pala try, you must follow instruction. Pag sinabi ng proctor nyo na dito lang kayo magsusulat, huwag gagamit ng ballpen, utang na loob guys, huwag. Kasi ang hirap ng how many months kayo nag-prepare tapos technicality lang kayo natanggal dun sa exam. And I've seen 1 to 2 roommates ko doon sa exam na late sila kasi kasalanan ata nung marker, hindi ang sabi sa amin, balik kayo ng 11:30, siguro siya, nakita lang niya si 1:30, so nung bumalik siya, tapos na yung exam. And nakakaawa kasi parang old na siya and feel ko he's one of those na hinahabol na lang talaga yung ENT kasi requirement na siya. So, nasayang yung but just because hindi niya narinig or malabo yung tinta nung pen. So, listen to your proctor at all times. Eat light and eat right. So, hindi ito yung time na mag-experiment. Na parang sabi kasi nila, hindi ako used na I'm not used to eating breakfast. So, sabi nila it would help to eat breakfast. Hindi ito yung time para mag-experiment. Kasi any deviation from your usual pattern, baka ma-disrupt yung buong system mo and your nerves will catch up on you. Pag kumulo yung tiyan mo, napunta ka pa sa place na hindi ganun kaganda yung CR and hindi ka pwedeng umalis ng exam room hanggat, kunyari may nakapagpasa na, hindi ka pwedeng umalis ng exam room. So, ang best friend mo for the next days of the exam is process of elimination and context clues. Kung kailangan mong dasalan yung test paper mo para mag-eliminate doon, gawin mo. Kasi sometimes, even if you don't know, even if hindi mo alam yung particular sagot, makikita mo there are choices na alam mo na hindi siya possible. So, you'll end up with the right answer. Use your time wisely, review but do not overthink, and then learn to trust yourself. Ngayon pa lang, subukan nyo na. And ito, greatest lesson ko talaga to na most important, do not give up after the first day. Kasi after the first day, doon ko naramdaman na parang wala ata akong alam na wala yung review ko. So I told my friends, hindi na ako babalik tomorrow. It was Ralph, Peter, Jeff, Kla, Blaze, so all of my friends, they would say, sila yung nagsabi na hindi, babalik tayo. To the point na doon sila sa baba ng kondo ko kumain to make sure na talagang by the end of the day, sasabihin babalik ka. So, find someone who will tell you to stand up and get back tomorrow. If you don't find that someone, be that someone for yourself. Post-it mo dun sa notes mo. Ito, natutuwa ako kasi ang dami nagpa-prayer reveal. So, sineryoso ko siya. Ito yung lahat ng dinasalan ko na santo nung nagbo-board exam ako. So, si Saint sa San Isidro Labrador kasi patron siya nung active kasi ako sa church. And totoo tong si Saint Joseph of Cupertino kasi ni-research ko talaga siya. Siya yung patron ng successful examinations. Our Lady of Perpetual Health, si San Padre Pio. Tapos si Saint Anthony de Padua, sa bawat nag-shade ako, sabi ko, nawawala po yung sagot, pahanap po para help, ganon. And then naman in doubt, for every doubtful shade ko, For every doubtful shade ko, nagdadasal ako ng Hail Mary. So, Lord, ikaw na bahala, Mama Mary, ikaw na bahala. Ayan. So, syempre, if you're of a different faith denomination, you could also, in fairness, hindi ko hinanap si St. Jude. So, marami pa akong pwedeng hingin kay St. Jude after nito. Yan, saan yung prayer reveal ko? So, post-examination, hinga na guys, love and choose yourself on that day kasi you did your best. So, ibig sabihin nito, kumain ka na ng masarap. Kami nag-inuman kami. Magdasal ka, you just check for the results 3 to 5 days after the exam and be thankful kung ano man yung result. And hopefully, when you pass and we claim that you pass, pay it forward, meaning sana in the next round of our ENP exam, you'll be there with us, hindi na as a student but also as a speaker, sharing your experience. And we're sure na meron at meron sa inyo na top 1. So ibig sabihin, one of you will be our speaker next year, saying and explaining their experience with UP Plano. So thank you guys and Godspeed.